Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film a very exciting announcement video for the upcoming Springathon. Springathon is a readathon that takes place in the month of May, and I've been involved in it for several years now, and this is a reading themed event where we're reading books based around nature. So you know that is right up my alley. This is a very fun time. This is springtime. It's time to get excited about nature, about being back in nature, particularly if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, which I do. So I am just going to tell you the details of this reading event. So Springathon will be happening this year between May 3rd and May 19th. So it's a little bit longer. In the past, we've done it for 2 weeks, but this is more closer to a 3-week time period. And to participate in Springathon, you just have to read any book of nature writing. That can be nonfiction, fiction, poetry, whatever you like that has themes around nature. So we do have a group read book, and it is the same book that we will be reading for the Book Naturalist Book Club in the month of May, and that is the Sakura Obsession, The Incredible Story of the Plant Hunter Who Saved Japan's Cherry Blossoms by Naoko Abe. And so this is, like I said, this is a Book Naturalist pick. This is also the group read for Springathon, so you can hit two birds with one stone by reading the Sakura Obsession. So the hosts are the same this year as they have been in the past, and will be Natalie and Emma and Doris. I will link all of these lovely ladies' links to their information down below, so you can go check out their stuff that they do on the internet, whether that be YouTube or Instagram. And we do have 4 prompts for this to help you choose books to read. You can use these prompts or not use these prompts as you choose to do. And the 4 prompts are very easy this year. They are the 4 seasons. So spring, summer, fall, winter. And just to help give you an idea of what we're talking about, I have some books here that I have read in the past that I would recommend for some of these prompts. So for the fall prompt, I recommend this young adult middle grade book. This is My Side of the Mountain by Jean Craighead George. And this is a classic work of children's literature, all about a young boy who goes away from home and lives in the wilderness in a tree. Loved this book as a child. This idea of living in a tree, making a home in the trunk of a tree was so incredible to me. I wanted to do it myself. And this book speaks to me of fall because living in a tree just seems like something you would do in the fall as you get prepared for winter. And so this book just speaks to me of fall. So that's the one I am recommending for the fall prompt. Now, for the winter prompt, I have another book of fiction, if you can believe it, and that is To the Bright Edge of the World by Naoko Abe. I just read this book back in January, and this book has such wonderful descriptions of nature. It's an adventure story. It's about an army officer who's traveling in what is now known as Alaska to map a river system. He's trying to travel during the warm weather months, but when he starts out, it's still wintertime. So they're traveling by dog sled and things like that over the ice of the river. And the descriptions of the Alaskan landscapes is just amazing. At the same time, his wife is back at the Army camp in Washington State, and she is dabbling with photography, nature photography in particular. And so the two storylines are told back and forth through letters and other forms of media, newspaper reports, other reports. And I just loved the story. I loved the nature writing. I loved the descriptions of Alaska and Washington State. I loved the feelings that the characters had towards natural things that they were encountering. I think this is a lovely, lovely book and really fabulous descriptions of winter scenery. So that's my winter pick. For spring, I had to pick Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. This is a classic work of nonfiction, and Rachel Carson outlines why the overuse of pesticides is so detrimental to the earth. This was the cry that went out that prompted the United States to pass the Environmental Protection Act. This book was first published in the 1950s or 1960s, and it really is the fundamental text that really woke people up, like regular people up, to the dangers of just using chemicals everywhere in your environment without any understanding of what impact those chemicals were going to have to natural processes, to animals, birds, insects, humans, the whole works. So absolutely 100% think that this book is very, very important for everybody to read and would fit very well with the spring prompt. And then lastly, for the summer prompt, I have The Big Burn by Timothy Egan. And this is a story about a forest fire in the west, of the huge forest fire in the western part of the United States during the early 1900s that was instrumental in sort of establishing the Forest Service and fire, the way that the United States thought about how we manage fires in wilderness areas. This was also like the time period where first conservation, government conservation agencies were being formed. This is Teddy Roosevelt's era. So yeah, it's lots of interesting things about, that were happening in the early 1900s around conservation and fire suppression and fire management and the impacts of fire on habitats, on animals, on landscapes, all of which took part in the summertime. And the descriptions in here of the heat and the smoke and the atmosphere of people like trying to fight the fires when it's so hot and the conditions are so dangerous. It was really, really striking and impactful to read about. So definitely recommend that. And Timothy Egan is a wonderful nonfiction writer. He wrote, gosh, I can't think of the name of it now, but the book about the Dust Bowl, The Worst Hard Times, about the Dust Bowl, that was made into a PBS miniseries afterwards. And then I would also just in general recommend nature writing that takes place over the whole course of the year. If you only have time to read one book and you want to hit all 4 prompts, you can read a book like Seed to Dust, Life, Nature, and a Country Garden by Mark Hammer. I read this a couple of years ago, and this goes through the course of an entire year. This man tends somebody's garden for a job, and it just describes the state and condition of the garden throughout the entire year from January to December. And so this one would meet all 4 prompts in one book. So there's lots of books like this, particularly in the nature writing genre that are sort of calendar based. So you get the author is like looking at something over the course of a whole year. And I really love that format of a book. So highly recommend books like that for meeting all 4 prompts at once. So that's the main bunch of information that you need about Springathon, May 3rd through 19th. Do know that there will be an Instagram challenge as well, and that will be, more information on that will be forthcoming later on in the month of April. We hope that you will join us and read some nature books at the first half of the month of May and participate with us on Instagram and posting some cool pictures about nature and about the books that you're reading. I hope everyone's doing well and finding some great books to read. I'll talk to you later.